Ciao studenti e benvenuti! Welcome to the first official lesson for this 30-day beginner series to help you learn Italian. My name is Manu Venditti and I'm the founder of Italy Made Easy, where we help people like you become fluent in Italian. Now, before we get started, this is lesson 1, but we had a very important introductory video that I assume that you have watched. So before you start, make sure that you watch that one. And today's topic is Italian easy? We're going to start a little easy and we're just going to discuss why you will manage to learn Italian. I hope all the way to fluency, but no matter what level you want to reach, we have the right system to help you. Is Italian an easy language to learn? So, once again, is Italian an easy language to learn? You might say, but what do you know? You're a native Italian speaker, of course it's easy. Well, I'll give you the facts. There have been studies made by the American Army where they looked at all the languages that an English speaker had to learn for work, and they classified them into 5 different groups. And Italian happens to be a category 1 language, meaning it's the easiest. It's in the group of easiest languages to learn for an English speaker. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it's one of the easiest languages you can learn. And so that's a very good starting point if you then want to branch out and learn more languages. And they estimated that it would take an average person 500, 600 hours of real study to get to fluency. Fluency defined as the ability to hold a job, which I believe would be an equivalent of a C1 if you're interested in those levels, but we're not. So English and Italian have very similar structure when it comes to sentence structure. And so my advice as a beginner will be to not worry too much about how do I make up a sentence. In most cases, it will be the same or very similar. Now, as you progress, you will realize that there's different scenarios where Italian has a completely different structure. But overall, I want you to take it as a baseline rule that structure is very similar. Italian and English share 60% of the vocabulary. This number might change between 50 to 70, depending on the field that you are tackling in Italian. But imagine learning a language where out of the box, you already know 60% of the words. That is amazing, and you have this benefit thanks to all the interactions that English had with the French language over the centuries. And Italian has very easy phonetics. That means the sounds of the Italian language are easy. It doesn't mean they will come to you naturally, but I will help you get those sounds right. So I said very similar structure, and I really want you to take this at face value. And we're not going to worry too much about the structure, at least for the first few months of your study. So if you were to say something like, this book is very interesting. Now, of course, I will not be encouraging that you translate sentences from English to Italian, but this is just an example to show you how most of the times it's fairly simple. So if in English you said something like, this book is very interesting, so you have this followed by the thing that you're talking about, the verb is in this case, and then the word very, which is an adverb, and then the adjective interesting. And so we have that sentence there. And now Italian, that would be questo libro è molto interessante. Questo is a direct translation of this. Libro is book. È is the verb is. Molto is basically very. And interessante is interesting. And so this is a 100% match in terms of structure. Like I said, things will not be always that straightforward, but mostly don't worry too much. I mentioned similar vocabulary. So I'm going to teach you a number of tricks to help you guess what a word is going to be like in Italian, and you're going to get it right most of the time once you pick up the couple of tricks that I'll share over the course of this series. So, for example, you will learn that if you're trying to guess how would the word station be in Italian, well, you will have enough knowledge by the end of the series to know straight out of the box that the word is stazione. You will also know that it's a feminine word, la stazione, that means the station, and you will know that. And so, again, no need to worry too much about things like that. There will be words that will be a little bit less straightforward, but there's always a way to guess. So let's say you're trying to think, I want to talk about teeth. So how do I say tooth in Italian? And the word in Italian is dente, which doesn't look anything like tooth. But then when you talk about anything relating to teeth, then you use the word dent, dentist, denture. So everything that relates to teeth has that root dent, which is the Italian word dente. It's going to get a little bit more complicated, and that is why the best students that we've ever had at Italy Made Easy are the older ones, because they seem to know more English, and you will find that the better your English, the easier your Italian. So the word bee, the insect, is ape in Italian. And again, there's no relation between bee and ape. They don't sound similar at all. But in English, the practice of keeping bees is called apiculture. So that apiculture, api, is the word for bee in Italian, ape. So if you have a good knowledge of English, I will show you how easy Italian can be for you. Over time, you will be able to even guess verbs. Let's say, how do I remember that to think is pensare in Italian? If you're a person who thinks a lot and you are caught in your thoughts, then you are pensive. And that is where the Italian word pensare comes from. I don't have time to really explain why English is so similar to Italian, because in theory, they come from very different language families. Italian being a language that comes from Latin, so its relatives are languages like French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, Catalonian, Galician, all those kind of European languages. Whereas English is a Germanic language, so it's related to German and Dutch and all those other languages. And so how did English come so close to Italian? Well, like I said, it's through centuries of contact, mostly with the French language. And so thank you so much. Finally, I mentioned easy phonetics. Now, phonetics, like I said, it's the sounds of the language. Italian is, for the most part, spelt as it is spoken. It's written as it is spoken. It's written as it is spelt. It's spelt as it... basically, it's a very straightforward language. If you've been exposed to Spanish, you kind of get the idea that it's fairly straightforward. There's a few tricky sounds, but we will cover those, so don't worry too much. Italian also has fewer sounds compared to English. We're actually missing a few letters in the Italian alphabet, but also we have fewer sounds. Just to give you an example, the English language, depending on which variety of English you speak, has up to 21 sounds for the 5 vowels, because we do have the same number of vowels. But English, they end up sounding 21 times different depending on the combination of words. In Italian, we only have 7 sounds for the same vowels. And so it's a lot, I'm going to say easier, meaning there's less stuff to produce from your mouth. You will find that as you tackle a foreign language, your native language will always be there, will always be dominant, will always keep those tendencies of pronouncing words the way you've been used to pronouncing them in your language. And so it will take you some time to get used to how much simpler the Italian phonetic system is, but you'll get there. Italian is also consistent. Unlike English, when you learn to spell a sound in Italian, even the irregular ones, you will find that next time you see that combination of letters, you are guaranteed to pronounce them the same way that you learned without having to memorize every word, like I suppose an English-speaking child has to. So let's have a look at a number of words. You know this one, Roma. It's 2 syllables, Ro-ma, Roma. See that ma at the end of Roma? If I have a word that starts with the same sound, mano, which means hand, that ma of mano is the same ma of Roma, Roma, mano. The word novità, which means news or novelty, that no is the same no that we heard in mano, mano novità, same sound. If I have another word that ends with ita, it's going to be pronounced the same way, so identità. Look at the English word, how tricky it is. You have, in English it starts with an I, and then there's an I later, and then there's a Y, but look at how different those sounds are in English. Italian, here, identità. That I at the beginning sounds the same as the T of identità, same sound. And we're done. So I hope this got you a little bit excited about learning Italian. Now, if you want to go deeper with all of these topics, I encourage you to check out our platform at italymadeeasy.com, but I will tell you more about this at another time. But for now, let's move on to the next lesson. Ciao.